Hi, Matadors. Thanks for joining me today. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about the student results from the distance learning survey. Most of these results will reflect district-wide data, but our data at Miramani looks very similar. So when I disaggregated by school site, I saw very similar trends at Miramani as what we're going to see in the district data, and I'd like to share that with you. This data has been actively used over the last couple weeks to help inform our professional development as we wrap up this semester. And we're looking at this data as we make plans for the fall. While we do not know what school is going to look like in the fall yet, we are planning for any number of different outcomes. And so we're using this data to better understand our student experience and look for those areas of growth that we can improve on in the future. So let's talk a bit about survey administration. We surveyed all of our students at our 4 comprehensive high school sites and our students at the Akalani Center for Independent Study. The survey was sent to students through School Loop. It was also texted out in the link to students so that we could get robust feedback. And here you can see what it looks like in terms of feedback from the different schools. Miramani had about 23% of our student body reply to the survey, which is good information for us to have on that student experience. This is the demographics broken down by grade level, and you can see it's pretty even by grade level in terms of survey responses. So we get a nice holistic scope over our survey. And then this slide here represents program enrollment. And so you can see that 8.3% of our students replying have an IEP, 8% reported having a 504 plan. We have 0.7% of our students replying that they were English language learners. And then the remaining students, 84% of the students who took the survey reported that they were in no specialized program. These look pretty similar to our district-wide demographics, so it's a good range of student experiences being represented here. So what did they say? All right, in terms of satisfaction, 36% of students report being very or somewhat satisfied with distance learning. You can see the breakdown by school site, which again looks really similar. Grade level is interesting. Our 9th graders reported overall higher levels of satisfaction than our 12th graders. And I think given what our 12th graders have had to work through in missing their last semester of school, this is maybe not so surprising to us because it's been a very disappointing end of the year for our seniors, and they've really mourned the loss of a lot of activities that they were looking forward to. So it does make me wonder how that's informing their satisfaction with regards to distance learning. When we look at the number of days that students are engaged in distance learning, we see that 68% of our district students are engaged 5 or more days per week. And 63% of students with IEPs and 504s are reporting the same thing. So most of our students are engaging with the curriculum 5 or more days a week. We do have some students reporting 3 to 4 days, 1 to 2 days, and a very small percentage saying 0. And so that's what we're targeting, is that our students are working about 5 days a week. So we seem to be within that range with some students working a little bit into an extra day per week. That may be because students are choosing to extend their work onto the weekends to build in a little bit more space between work during the week. But that's an area that I would be interested in looking into a little bit more. We were also interested in the number of hours that were being spent on schoolwork per day. So our guidelines call for students to have 2 to 3 hours per week per course. So what that breaks down to is a student that has 6 classes should be spending about 3 to 4 hours a day on coursework. And that would include any synchronous classes and also work that students were being assigned to do outside of classes. If a student takes 7 classes, they should be spending about 4 to 5 hours a day on coursework, roughly. So when we look at this chart, we're seeing that the range that we're looking at the majority of our students being in would be represented in the yellow and the green, so that you can see that comprises about 48% of our students are saying that they're right within that range that we would anticipate that students would be in given the 6 or 7 classes that most students carry. We have students in the red and in the blue who are reporting that they have less than that amount of work to do. And then we do have a group of students, those are the students in the purple and that lighter blue, that are reporting more work than we'd want our students to be doing within a week. So when we look at this slide, this gives us a little bit of information about what the workload experience is for our students and helps us understand how close we are to meeting that target. So we do have some student outliers there. I'd say that maybe that looks a little bit higher than we want for the outliers on the higher end of schoolwork, but we're approaching that range that we're really aiming for with students. So that's the time that they're reporting with their schoolwork, but how are they feeling about it? And those things might not be exactly the same. Kids may be finding that they're right within the sweet spot of the time that we want them to be spending on their schoolwork, but it might feel like it's a lot harder for them to do. We are in the midst of a global pandemic. And so the number of hours we're working and the way that we feel about that work might not exactly align. What our students are telling us is that a lot of them are finding that there's too much work assigned. You see that gold area there, that 53%, over half of our kids are saying there's too much work being assigned. Now, we saw from the previous chart that most of our students, and about that same number of students, are actually falling within that range that we're aiming for. But it's interesting to note that 53% of our kids are still feeling like there's too much work assigned, even if they may not be working in excess of the 2 to 3 hours per week per class that we've designed during our distance learning model. There are a group of students, 36%, who feel like it's just enough. There is a very small group who finds that there is not enough to do, and then there's a group that's sort of undecided there. Oops. So how about communication? Sorry for that skipping of the slides. This has been a major focus for us because communicating over distance learning is really important. So we asked students about their use of the designated online platforms. 72% of students report that all or almost all of their teachers are posting assignment details on Schoolloop. That's our target platform for teachers to be posting on. We do have a group of students saying that only half or less than half of their teachers are doing that. So that would be problematic. We're looking to have all of our assignments posted by all of our teachers on our designated platform, which is Schoolloop. The good news is 90% of students are reporting that it's easy or somewhat easy to access those platforms. We do have a small group that are having difficulty accessing those platforms, and that's a group that we really want to target for intervention and support. This gives you just a little bit more of a look on the use of the designated platforms. You can see Miramani on the far side of the graph there. We have a lot of kids, 57% of our kids are saying very easy to access those online platforms, really good showing for us. And you can see that we have that very small number on the other end saying that it is difficult. And we're in alignment with the other schools in our district. How about lesson engagement? This is always an interesting question, and it's one that we actually ask on the Challenge Success Survey as well. So we say that we're seeing that 43% of our students, the majority of responses were that the lesson engagement is somewhat relevant. We do have that 14% who are saying it's very relevant, and then you can see that what we have in the gold and in the green and in the purple is starting to slide onto that irrelevant side. We want our lessons to be engaging, so we'll be continuing to work on making sure that that happens. Interesting to note, this response looks very similar in traditional school from our students as well. So not a lot of difference between distance learning and traditional learning. It's a real signal to us that we have some work to do to continue to grow in our capacity to be engaging in our classes. Synchronous classes. Many of you have seen your students taking Zoom classes or having office hours. We have been highly encouraging that with our teachers. And this gives you a little picture of what students are experiencing. The purple there is the all or almost all of teachers are offering these things. So you can see what that looks like for live class offerings and office hours. The green is more than half of teachers are offering them, where the gold is now half of teachers. we still have a large group of students reporting that less than half of their teachers are offering live classes. And that's an area that we're going to want to focus on if we do find ourselves in a blended or distance learning environment in the fall, because we would like to see that number go down. We'd like to see all of our students experiencing some live classes with their teachers as we get better at using these platforms so that they have that touch point and that connectedness piece built into their weekly schedule. When we ask students about successful strategies in the classroom, the things they like are the live lessons on Zoom, the screencasts and the recorded lectures with the slides. Other strategies coming up: communication, being clearly articulated on the calendar, flexible deadlines, answer keys with office hours for questions so that they can follow up with their teachers. When we asked about student support, many students reported that they have not asked for any support from us. And so that's a number we'd actually like to see go up. We'd like our students to reach out when they need support. We've been trying to identify those students and proactively reach out to them, but we want them to be reaching out to their counselors and the rest of their team to be able to get support as they need it. The strategies that are working for them are office hours, the flexibility with deadlines, and responding to email questions. Email is something we're newly very, very dependent on over distance learning, and that quick response time is something that really helps our students feel supported. The credit, no credit system has been an evolving system for us over the course of the semester, and students were asked if they understood it. Many of our students do have a good understanding of the system. There are some that are a little bit on the fence, and this was before our progress reports came up, so this may have changed in the last couple of weeks as students have had more in-depth conversations with teachers. But this is an area where we'd like to see 100% of students have clarity about grading. Their largest concerns. Our kids gave us a lot of concerns in the survey. Up there at the top: college acceptance, grades, graduation, passing, learning the material and being prepared for next year, missing the social aspects of school, concerns with next school year, what's that going to look like, getting ill or having family members ill, the financial stress of living in the middle of this pandemic, and then just overall stress, mental health, depression, lack of motivation. Our kids are carrying a tremendous cognitive load with them. And when we saw this in our survey questions, it really made us realize very concretely how much of this load our students are carrying with them. And this is really the main reason for the infinite flexibility that we have built in this semester. There are so many unknowns right now that making sure that we could be really dexterous and be flexible with our students was of the utmost importance. We also asked students how we can help them be connected, and they really saw the chat rooms and the breakout rooms, the class discussions, the group projects as ways to really keep them connected with each other. They also appreciated regular updates from the school, and then some of the special offerings that we've been able to build in as well. So some great input from our students. As we look forward, we're going to be using this to make new design, whether we are in traditional school or blended school or distance learning. This feedback's really valuable in understanding what our students need, and we'll be using it as we move forward. So thanks for listening today. I hope this was helpful in understanding the student perspective, and go Mats!